أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا الشمس كورت وإذا النجوم انكدرت وإذا الجبال سيرت وإذا العشار عطلت وإذا الوحوش حشرت وإذا البحار سجرت وإذا النفوس زوجت وإذا الموءودة سئلت بأي ذنب قتلت وإذا الصحف نشرت وإذا السماء كشطت وإذا الجحيم سعرت وإذا الجنة أزلفت علمت نفس ما أحضرت صدق الله العظيم. Now these surahs, Surah إذا الشمس كورت, and of course even the previous surah عبس وتولى, and the one before that والنازعات and عما يتساءلون, all of these surahs are mainly talking about Akhirah, the day of judgment, and things that will be taking place that day, what the human beings will have to go through that day. And basically, this whole juz, in one way or other, is a reminder about Akhirah. Some ayahs will talk about different deeds, different type of things that leads towards Jannah, and different things that leads towards hellfire, wal-iyadhu billah. And some ayahs, very straightforward, are about Akhirah and the day of judgment. This surah which is called Surah Takwir, إذا الشمس كورت, and next surah, Surah Infitar, إذا السماء انفطرت. And then another surah is coming also, Inshiqaq, إذا السماء انشقت. All of these surahs, they just start right on the subject. And they start right away talking about the day of judgment and things that will be taking place on that day. If we just want to know in brief what is that day, it's a very scary day. And no one will be more scared in his life than being on that day. Let us go through some ayahs, and then inshallah we'll come back to the subject. The ayahs will give us some understanding of what people will be going through. People means us, will be going through that day. And then inshallah we'll talk in more detail about it in the light of Quran and the Sunnah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. Ash-Shams is the sun. And Kuwira means, Takwir in the Arabic language means for something to lose its light. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ, when the sun will lose its light and will become as this wasn't the same sun anymore, will have no light in it anymore. More details of the sun and what will happen to the sun will be coming soon, inshallah. We'll be talking about it after we go through some of these ayahs. وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ, and when the stars will fall. Nujum, Najm, star. Inkadara. Inkadara has some different meanings. One of the meaning is the same as kuwirat, which is to lose the light. The main meaning for inkidar is to become dusty. And when some light becomes very dusty, then the light cannot come through. Has the same, giving us the same feeling and same understanding that will lose its light also. Will have no light. Before we go into any other details and go to the next ayahs and talk about the day of judgment, in one of the ahadith, let us just take these two ayahs, sun and the stars, losing the light. Of course, one is, we know that everything will collapse on that day. The sun, moon and stars, everything will have no light. and this whole universe, everything that we see around us in this world will have nothing, no existence, will lose its existence, and everything will be falling apart, everything will break down, the reality of this universe will come before our eyes, that these things are meaningless, these things are of no use at all, and everything will be just finished. That's it. But the sun and the stars will lose their light. Even if they won't lose the light won't be seen. Because the next ayahs are coming that are saying that the heavens will be open. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show His existence. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show His existence, the whole universe will be full of the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then how can the nur of the sun and the stars can be seen? The real nur, we have not seen it. That's the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our eyes in this universe have no power of seeing that real nur. That's the nur that once the people will sense it and will see it once, they will not be wanting to leave that nur. They will always be looking for that nur. In reality, our soul, the soul of the human being, because our soul comes from the heavens. It came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He said to angels, when I make the perfect shape of the human being, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحٍ, and I blow my ruh into the human being. Therefore we all know that this ruh will never die. Our soul will never die. The body will die. It came from dust, will go back to dust. مِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ. But the soul will never die. Our soul, human being soul, came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it will never die. It will never be destroyed. It will never finish. And that's the reason that our soul is always in search of that light. When now we can very well understand the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which in normal situation is a little difficult to understand without having this background. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ يُولَدُ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ, every human being is created on the pure nature. This is our nature. That our soul is clean and pure, and is always looking for the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why, when Islam is in real sense, is presented to a person who opens up his eyes for the guidance, for hidayah, and is not, that person does not just want to oppose the deen, does not just want to reject the deen for his personal reasons, that person will always feel closeness to Iman. That person will feel like this was the lowest thing that he was looking for all the time throughout his life. This was the thing that he was always in search of. All the human beings are in search of something day and night. We all are looking for something. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in the hadith, جُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. My peace of mind is in salah. When I stand my salah, I feel that now I have got everything I need in the world. There is nothing else I need in the world. And when we look at the prayers of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we can tell that if he did not have the responsibility of conveying the message of Islam to the Ummah, he will never end his prayers. He will always be doing the prayers. Because once he will be doing the prayer, it looks like, and he says it himself, جَعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي. My peace of mind was in salah, and has always been in salah. So this is something, and as in other hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us the reason for that, الصلاة معراج المؤمنين. Salah is the mi'raj for the believers. As Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself went for mi'raj, and he went to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he talked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our mi'raj we can have a Mi'raj also. Our Mi'raj is Salah, that we fold our hands, face the Qibla, fold our hands, and start talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What a great thing it is. If we just think about this part of it, it is the greatest thing we have in our life. That we can talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this human being who's made out of dust, out of a drop, a dirty drop, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so kind to us that we can talk to Allah. Subhanallah. We cannot even think about that I can talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Would He talk to me? But yes, He says, any human being can talk to me. You come and talk to me. You pray to me. We make the prayers. And dua is directly talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, this is my need. I need this. I need this. I need this. Would He listen to us? He promises in Quran. Ud'uni astajib lakum. Pray to me. I will answer your prayers. Subhanallah. How great He is. So, our soul is always in search of that light, the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in His deen, in His iman. Quran, what is Quran? The word of Allah. Of course, the word of Allah has the nur of Allah. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us in Quran, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. We see a great blessings during the month of Ramadan. All of us, every believer feels that his level of iman is getting higher during the month of Ramadan. We feel closeness to our deen. We feel like doing more ibadahs. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us that month of Ramadan became a blessed month because أنزل فيه القرآن. The word of Allah was revealed during that month. That this nur of Allah was opened for human beings during that month. This is the nur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words are nur. Each and every word is nur. So, during the month of Ramadan, we see great blessings. It's the repetition of that nur that started coming down during the month of Ramadan. So this is the light. This is the nur. And this is the nur that in reality our souls are always in search of. And once we get the real feeling of our iman, then we realize that I have got what I need. This is what I wanted. And once I have this, there is nothing else I need in my life. Everything else is immaterial now. Everything else means nothing to this person anymore. He really got the kingdom. He got the relationship with Allah, and he has got the nur of the iman, which is the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all of our feelings, when they change, and we see our feelings are getting higher, and we feel that now I feel that I'm getting a better Muslim, I'm getting closer to Allah, all of these feelings are because of this nur of our iman. This is the nur of our iman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, once He will show His nur to the human beings. And of course on the day of Judgment, all the human beings will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the hadith are very, very clear about it. Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in asked, Ya Rasulullah, how can we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Judgment, and all the human beings together will be able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, on the 14th of the month, it's talking about the lunar month, on the 14th night of the month, when the moon is full, do you have any difficulty seeing that moon, all of you together? They said, no, Ya Rasulullah. He said, this is how you will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. And just for us to understand that how much our soul looks for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatest blessings we can ever think of, we will get those in the Jannah. whatever human being, of course something that we cannot even think of. Normally we feel a person in this life, we were to sit by ourselves and have long dreams that if I would have this, I will have the satisfaction of mind, I will have the peace of mind, I will be totally satisfied. Nice, beautiful garden, my castle in the middle of the garden, people who are always working for me, someone will bring the food, my wife is always sitting around me. And now you go in your own dreams and start thinking of what you need over there. And better than all of this, we will get it in the Jannah. As Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in the hadith, مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ. What is it that we are going to get? Something that no eyes have ever seen. Our eyes have never seen something like that. وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ. No ears have ever heard about something that we will be getting over there. وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. And no human being even ever thought of things that we will be getting over there. Normally we say there will be fruit like mangoes, bananas, apples, whatever. These are just names. These are just names. In fact, it might be true in real sense that if we go back about 200-300 years back, the people who were eating the fruit in those days, if you give them the fruit of nowadays, they will think that this is a piece of a sponge or something like that, a cotton that you have put in his mouth and he has asked to chew that cotton, because it's all chemicals. They try to make all of them look similar, nice size, look so nice. You go to some of the villages where they don't use chemicals. You see apples, you put 10 apples together, each of them has a different shape. But you can smell it from a mile away. And as soon as you put it in your mouth, you feel that, oh, this is something to eat, and I don't want to eat anything else other than this. So of course, if we can't compare things of nowadays with the real things that people had some time back, there is no comparison between what we get in this life and what we will be getting in the Jannah. It's only name. Apple of this life and apple of the Jannah, they don't match. It's just a name, that something for us to recognize that this is an apple. Otherwise, the taste of it will be totally different. And will be nothing close to what we have, and in fact this is nothing close to what we'll get over there. And nowadays, in fact, and this is very true, that our fruits have no smells in it. These fruits were supposed to have real nice scent and smell in it. They don't have no smell. You hardly can taste it after you put it in your mouth and keep on chewing and chewing, and I think it is an apple. If someone would cut it and put it in front of us, I think it's an apple. So, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. The life over there is totally different. The life in the Jannah will be totally different than what the life we have in this life. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, just to give us some sense of that life, he says in the hadith, يَضْحَكُ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى إِلَى رَجُلَيْنِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will laugh with two types of people in the Jannah. Subhanallah. People will be sitting over there and they will have a good time and they will see Allah and Allah is laughing with them. Who are those two people? And of course this is one category. It's not that these are not the only people, but this is one category of people. Which simply means Allah will be pleased with these people and He will be telling them that both of you you did something great, both of you. Who are those two people? Those are the people, يَقْتُلُ أَحَدُهُمُ الْآخَرِ. One of them has killed the other, يَدْخُلَانِ الْجَنَّةِ, but both of them will go to Jannah. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam explained this. He said one person was not a Muslim, and he was fighting against Muslims and he killed that Muslim. So this Muslim became shaheed. Now that person later on becomes a Muslim also. The killer. He becomes Muslim. And because of his faith and his iman, he goes to Jannah also. Both of them will see each other, and this person will be saying, hey, my brother, nice. It's good that you killed me that day. At least I became shaheed and got to Jannah, and now you made your way too. You found your way to Jannah also. But it's good. Nice of you that you killed me that day. Totally different life. Both of them will be joking with each other and smiling to each other. See, we did something great. So, that life is totally different. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so I was mentioning with all the blessings that we get over there. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the blessings will be such that there will be people who will be standing for thousands of years just looking. So, what's around me? This is really something that I got it? And they will be just standing and looking at it. Finally, as we will start using these blessings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call the people of Jannah and will ask them, "O people of Jannah, are you satisfied?" They all will say, "Yes, Ya Allah, we got everything we need. More than what we deserve. We don't deserve all of this. We never thought we'll get all of this. Ya Allah, we got everything." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask them, "Do you need anything more?" "No, Ya Allah. What else can we ask for? There is nothing that we can even think more than this. There can be anything more than this." And in reality, there will be nothing more than that. That's the top of the... That will be the top line of the blessings that we get. Nothing else we can think about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell the human beings, and inshallah will tell us, that I want to give you one more blessing. You'll say, "Ya Allah, is there anything else there?" Yes, there is one more thing that I can give you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show His nur, will show Himself to the people in the Jannah. As people will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the nur of Allah, they will forget all of the other blessings they had over there. They will forget all the blessings, everything else, and everyone will be just looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring a hijab, a curtain, barrier between those people and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? So that we can use the other blessings, otherwise we'll just keep on looking at that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put a barrier, and then we will keep on using the other blessings. Once a week, all the people of the Jannah will get together, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show His nur to all the people. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in one of his ahadith that people will go to see Allah, but they will gather to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In that gathering, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will present some, this is only picturing some things that will get over there. We don't know how it will be. There's no resemblance with things in this life. Is only using the name for us to have some understanding of it. With that in mind, He will give us some albums of they will have pictures in it. Those albums will have nice pictures in it. Men will look at those pictures of men. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show them that by looking at these pictures, tell me, is there any picture that you feel that if you become like that, you will look even better? And people will go through, they scroll through those albums, and someone will say, "Ya Allah, this is if I become like this." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give that person that looking. Will shower the fragrance on him. He will go back to his wife. She will say, "Oh, where are you coming from? Where did you get all of this from?" in this life she just makes words, she doesn't really like you. But over there, she will really feel, oh, what's this? Where did you get all of this from? So every week they will be getting more, better and better, nice looking, more fragrances, different types of perfumes on them, as they see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will be the market. In the hadith, it's called, that will be the shopping center for them, but it's for free. And you pick and choose whatever you need, and you just take it, Ya Allah, okay, this is how I want to. This is the fragrance I need to be showered by. And that person will get all of those things, and then will go back to his home again, to his part of the garden again, and spend the whole rest of the week over there. Subhanallah. I don't want to go into more details. You people will be dreaming too much, man. We don't want to go into too many details of this, but inshallah some other time when we will get those ayahs about Jannah, we will talk inshallah about some more ahadith about the subject. But I was just reminding of the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that what a great blessing it is, and how much does our soul look for that in spite of all the blessings of the Jannah, forget of this life, all the blessings of the Jannah and everything that we know that we get over there, yet once we see the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over there, we will forget about everything else and we will be just looking at that. Then finally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have a curtain between us and Him in His nur, so that at least we can go and take advantage of the other blessings over there. So the sun will lose its light. وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ. The stars will fall, or we can also say will lose the light, or will become dusty. وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ. And when the mountains will be made to move, all the mountains, they will be just flying. وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْعِهْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, mountains will be just like a cotton that's flying. وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ. Mountains will be made to move. Now, after that good time that we had with the blessings of the Jannah, let's now go back to the day of judgment. And now put ourselves in that situation. Imagine if the wind is blowing very heavy. Our houses are shaking. We see the roof of the house flying away. What will be our situation at that time? In normal situation, when our house just shake a little, which is not really shaking, they just shake a little, and we feel that there is little shaking there, we get scared. And imagine if all the windows are breaking, and the roof of the house is flying, and in no time the house is breaking down. This is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. If the mountains are flying, how about our homes? Do you think they will stay in their place? The mountains will be flying. So everything will be falling apart. And human beings still are alive looking at all of this is happening. وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ. Mountains are flying and they're moving. وَإِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ. To Arabs, the most valuable asset was camels, and among camels, the best camel was a she camel that's pregnant of 10 months, which means about to deliver. That was the best asset for them. Mentioning that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us the best asset that we have in this life, whatever that might be to any person. That thing, وَإِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ. The ayah says, when the 10-month pregnant camel will be neglected, which simply means when the most valuable thing in this life will be neglected. وَإِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another ayah, يَوْمَ تَرَوْنَهَا تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ عَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ. All the mothers who are breastfeeding their children, the most important thing at that time to the mother are those children. The life, because they keep them with their chest all the time, close to their heart all the time. So they can lose anything, but they don't want to lose these children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ عَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ. The breastfeeding mothers will forget about their children, their infants. Can we imagine that mothers will forget their own children and they will not pay any attention to them? They will just leave them and run away? وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى. You will see the people as if they are drunk. وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى. They are not really drunk. But وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ شَدِيدٌ. The punishment of Allah is very severe, and they see all the signs of the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now. Everything is falling apart, everything is getting destroyed, and nothing is staying in its place. People are afraid, people are afraid, they are running here and there, they are looking for some place where they can go and have some peace now, and some place where they can go and seek any refuge and get some protection, because everything is falling apart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. When the wild beasts will be brought together, which means even all the beasts, out of fear, they will be running here and there, and they will mix with human beings, and all the beasts will be getting together, all the animals are getting together, and human beings and animals, all of them are together and running here and there. No one knows what to do, and no one knows where to take refuge, and everyone is just running here and there. وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. When the wild beasts will be brought together. وَإِذَا الْبِحَارُ سُجِّرَتْ. When the oceans will overflow. All the oceans will be flowing, and in really, سُجِّرَتْ really also means that the oceans will be overflowing because of the fire that's in it. In the ahadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, as Imam Qurtubi rahmatullahi alayhi has narrated, and there is another tafsir which is a very nice tafsir for the ahadith in the light of ahadith called Al-Mazhari. Both of these mufassirin have narrated many ahadith about the subject, that on that day, the sun and the water, everything will be together. The water will be with sun, and sun is mixed with the water, and there will be a big fire, which simply is telling us 3/3 of the world is water. Only 1/3 is the land. And in the land, this is what's happening, that our houses, mountains, everything is flying. And we look at the skies, sun, moon, stars are all falling apart. And at the same time, we'll see a big fire there. 3/3 of the universe is water, and all of this water and the sun, moon, and stars, all of them will have fire in it. Which means the skies, up on the heavens, and around us in the water. Everywhere is fire. No way to skip. No way to go to any other universe. As they are planning that they can go to some other place to go and live, as the ozone is finishing, and they're finding another place. Fire all around. The sun and moon will catch fire before the world, so it's better to stay here. The sun and moon and stars, all of these will be catching the fire before this universe. They will all be on fire. Just imagine. Can we think about the situation that everything is falling apart? We see all fire. When we look up, is all fire. All the oceans are all fire. And human being is just standing in an open desert. No one knows what to do. These are 6 things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mentioned. All of these 6 things will be taking place at the time when the trumpet will be blown at the first time. The first blowing of the trumpet. Up to the 6th ayah, all of these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mentioned, these are the things that will be taking place at the time of the blowing of the first trumpet. And human beings are afraid. According to the ahadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, all the human beings will be just scattered, and running here and there. No one will know who he is, what he is supposed to do. And of course, we can just think that with heavy wind or with a little earthquake that we just hear about, we see what people's situation is in those towns, in those places where there is an earthquake. So imagine if all we see or what we see around us is fire, and the storm is so heavy that it's taking our houses, it's taking the mountains are flying, and human being is just standing looking at all of these things, what's going around him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us that on that day, of course, there are some ayahs. Then at the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, عَلِمَتْ نَفْسٌ مَا أَحْضَرَتْ. Every human being that day will know what he has done, he or she has done. So, it all depends on our deeds, our actions. When we look at these ayahs, and now we really look at our lives, subhanallah, what are we living for? And what's all of this life is for? If we have to face that day, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guaranteeing us that every human being will go through all of these things. And that will be the most difficult day in our life. That was the reason when Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in, in fact, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Rasulullah, I saw some gray hairs on your beard. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, that's because of these surahs that talk about akhirah. Surah Hud wa amthaliha, and surahs like Surah Hud and other surahs, and he named some other surahs also. He said, because of these surahs, I'm getting old and I'm having gray hair, because when I look at these hardships that all the human beings will be going through, I just think how human beings will be able to face these hardships. And the day after, this will be the first day. The day after will be even more difficult than this day. This day will be the most difficult day of the world, but the day after will be the first day of Akhirah, which is the day when all the people will come back to life. That will be even more difficult day. And people will be having even more hardships that day than they had the day before. And when I say the day before, does not necessarily mean just 2 days after, one after another. There will be a long gap between the two. But for us to know that these are the two difficult days that human beings will be facing. One is the last day of the human being, of this universe, and the other is the first day of Akhirah. Before we go to the next surah, next ayahs, and the questioning and things that people will be going through after the second blowing of the trumpet, let me just remind ourselves of the hadith, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us, لا تقوم الساعة حتى يقال في الأرض الله الله. As long as there are people to say Allah, Allah in this universe, the day of judgment will not take place. This universe will not end, will not fall apart, will not be destroyed, as long as there is a single person saying Allah, Allah in this universe. The time when there will be no one to even say Allah, that will be the time of the day of judgment. Which simply is telling us the real life in this universe is Allah, Allah. Is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we say our soul came from the heaven, this hadith is explaining the same thing, that name of Allah is the ruh, is the soul for the universe. If there is no one to say the name of Allah, no one to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what's the sense of having this universe? And that simply means the universe has lost its soul and it's supposed to be destroyed and just be finished now. Just like when we lose our soul and the soul departs from the body, then we lose our sun, moon and stars, our face, our eyes, our trees that are all the hair that's growing on our body. All of this falls apart. This is just like a small universe if we look at our body. The soul of it, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, what Allah has blown into these lives. Same thing, the soul of this universe is Allah, Allah. people feel that we are keeping this universe, protecting the universe by our weapons. Politicians might say by our intelligence and our politics. And businessmen are saying that because we are providing food to the people, and farmers are saying because we are working on the land and with all of this growth and everything that we are providing and bringing up for the human beings to eat, if we won't work, people won't have the food. Businessmen are saying if we won't provide the people with all of this and the market, they won't be able to go and get it from the farmers and they will die. Politicians are saying that if we don't keep the peace in the world, then the whole people, then the universe will be destroyed and people will kill each other. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the only thing that's holding this universe is Allah, Allah. And the time there will be no Muslim, no one to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when there will be no mu'min, no believer, no follower of Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That will be the end of the universe, because only Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have told us who is Allah. Without him, we don't know who is Allah. So as long as there is any follower from the ummah of Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this universe will not be destroyed. This is the real soul of this world. And this is the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Quran al-Kareem, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Peace of mind comes with dhikr of Allah. The dhikr of Allah, with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if this is the real soul that's stopping the universe from getting destroyed, and this is the thing that's holding the universe, so of course if we have the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives, then we will have the peace of mind. We know that my soul is there. The person will feel that I have what I need. So this is why we get the peace of mind through the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it be in the form of salah, in the form of the recitation of Quran al-Kareem, or in the form of dua, or in the form of other adhkar, in whichever form, when there is a remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, hearts will always be in peace, and hearts will have the peace of mind. People will have the peace of mind. So this is really what is holding this universe, the Iman, the Deen that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have brought is the only thing that's holding the universe. If this Deen will not exist, the universe will not exist. And this is telling us the importance of keeping our Deen, holding to our Deen, and at the same time is a great reminder for all of us. This thing is a reminder for all of us that we have to hold to our Deen, because a day will come when there will be no one to even remember Allah. No one will even know who Allah is. We are going into that direction. We are in that direction. Unfortunately, if we look at our souls and our Iman, the remembrance of Allah, whether it might be in the form of salah, if we just look at salah for example, which is the most important form of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we might find that at least 90% of the people in the ummah, they might miss one or two prayers in a day. Look at ourselves in our communities. If we look at the jama'ah, if we start with the jama'ah, we are too far away. What's the percentage of the ummah who perform the salah with the jama'ah? Then what's the percentage of the ummah that are performing the salah without making any salah qada in their life? This was the life of Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. This is where Iman started from. Without missing a single salah in their life. Not to talk about performing it later on. Then, what's the percentage of the ummah that regularly miss the salah? They might miss one salah a day. What's the percentage of the ummah that miss more than one salah a day, and what's the percentage of the ummah that never perform the salah? This is the most important form of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have told us, as in the hadith, يأتي على الناس زمان, a time will come to people, لا يبقى من الإسلام إلا اسمه, nothing will remain of this Islam except the name of it. People will say Islam, Islam, Islam. You will hear Islam from all around. The name of Islam will be echoing from everywhere, but it will be only the name, nothing in practice. Just look around us. Any show, any program, look all around. Everywhere we hear Islam, Islam, Islam. The same people who are calling for Islam, if we stay together, we tell them, brothers, come on, let's stay in the masjid for about 1 day, for 2 days, for 3 days, so at least we can stay together and learn Islam from each other. Many of them may not even know how to perform the salah properly. I have experienced this myself. And I have seen in the history, it's only about 60 years back. I'm not going to mention any names because you people will recognize those names. And it is not good to mention names. Only 60 years back, those people are under the ground now. There was a person who wrote a lot about Islam and reforming, and we should do something about bringing deen back to life. Large group of scholars decided that this person has a real good understanding of Islam, emotions to bring Islam back. Let's all get together and make him the Amir, and then we all start practicing deen in that form. They got together. Within a week, everyone was running away from there. What happened? No practice. Hijab, there is no hijab in the home. Salah is not in proper place. And once these things were not there, of course, we can imagine what will be the situation of the Sunnah. As one of the scholars said, Sunnah, there was nothing, even the name of it there. So the only thing that we used to talk about, we want to bring Islam back into the world, and we didn't see no Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam into the life. So we realized that there will be no way we can bring this Islam back. And if this type of Islam is what these people want to bring it back, then this is not the Islam that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. So they all went back. And this is the same situation nowadays. We hear a lot about Islam. We get together in the masajid, subhanallah. You see the person involved in some of the major sins in the masjid, in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the masjid, in the house of Allah. Not to talk about the person neglecting some of the sunnahs. The person might be involved in some of the major sins, things that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam called are considered of very major sins and type of sins that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive even on special occasions when He forgives all the human beings. You see, the same people are involved in those major sins. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, يَأْتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ زَمَانٍ, a time will come, لَا يَبْقَى مِنَ الْإِسْلَامِ إِلَّا اسْمُهُ, nothing will remain of Islam except the name of it. وَلَا مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ إِلَّا رَسْمُهُ, nothing will remain of Quran except the text of it. People will have the text of the Quran, a lot of copies of Quran, but nothing in the hearts and in the lives. مَسَاجِدُهُمْ عَامِرَةٌ وَهِيَ خَرَابٌ, masajid will be beautiful, but no one to remember Allah. وَهِيَ خَرَابٌ. In our hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained the word kharab means there will be no one to concentrate in the salah and no one to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the masajid. They will do everything else in the masajid except the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The time is there. We are in that direction. And of course this is the direction, if we have been so far, then this is the direction that will make people even forget about who Allah is. So these ayahs are reminding us of the day of judgment, of akhirah, things that we'll be facing on the last day of this universe. And next ayahs will be talking about the first day of akhirah and the questioning and some things that we will go through on the day of judgment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us against all the evils. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us from His azab, from His punishments in the akhirah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us peaceful death, peaceful life, and peaceful life in the akhirah also. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.